Well, it's Friday. That, of course, means fish. No, that's the old days. That means Dr. Robert Heinemann.
Hi, everyone.
Wait just a minute, will you? Professor of political science, lecturer, author, scholar extraordinaire, and an award-winning professor.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you very much, Kevin.
Well, that's the last nice thing I'm probably going to say to you, Bob.
Today, anyway, huh?
We have this situation where Kevin McCarthy, the would-be Speaker of the House,
Yes.
really blew it.
Yes.
Admitting that the Benghazi committee was really designed to destroy Hillary.
I don't think he quite said that.
Oh, come on, that's what he said.
Well, I'm not sure he quite said that, but there's a feeling that he's confirming the idea that it is a political inquiry.
Yes.
Yes.
And only the very naive would think it wasn't. But, nevertheless,
Right.
a lot of people really did want to know what happened in Benghazi. I'm not sure what effect it's going to have, his statement is going to have on what he says. But he gave the Dems a tremendous opportunity to discredit the Republicans in Congress.
Well, I think it gave the Hillary people an opportunity to say, why, gee, even their leader says that this had political consequences and impact. Yes, look at how her ratings have fallen as a result of the Benghazi investigation. I think he's way off base on that. I don't think Benghazi makes that much difference. I'll tell you that.
Why not?
Well, because most people have no idea what it's about at this point. They can understand corruption, taking money from countries and foundations, and then having the Secretary of State give waivers in terms of trade agreements and all kinds of other things. They can understand that. And I think that, irrespective of what happened in Benghazi, is where the whole idea of corruption and conflict of interest comes into play. Plus, again, the whole email scandal, which, again, is a pretty clear-cut thing for the American public.
Nevertheless, among Democratic voters, she's still the number one favorite.
Well, I don't think the Democratic voters have a whole lot of choice there.
Well, what if Joe Biden gets in?
Well, I think that will definitely upset the apple cart. But right now, you look at Bernie Sanders, and his poll numbers are closing in on Hillary's. Additionally, his fundraising efforts have come very close to Hillary's this time around. It's kind of interesting on this whole fundraising thing. I have the feeling that both sides are massaging those numbers all over the place. So, how much money they actually raised. I don't know how accurate that is.
Now, Bob, why is that important?
It's important because if you're willing to give a person money, it indicates that you think they have a pretty good chance of winning, and it also indicates you'll probably vote for them. So that's, I think, where both parties, both candidates emphasize that, in Hillary's case, for example, that most of the contributions were $100 or less. Give me a break. But at any rate, so they try to show that it's not the big corporations, the big PACs pouring in money. It's the common people, Kevin.
Folks like you and me.
Right, Kevin. Like you and me, but not you and I.
I think it's you and me, Bob.
Like you and me? Like you and I? I don't know. It's an interesting grammatical issue.
Yeah, well, we'll deal with that some other time.
Well, all right. We can put that on the back burner.
Bob, so will this affect Kevin McCarthy becoming the Speaker of the House?
Yeah, I think there's a definite movement right now to...
dump Kevin.
I'm sorry?
Dump Kevin.
Yeah, there's a definite movement to try to stymie his ascension to the speakership. And I think, again, the wingnuts on the conservative side aren't satisfied that they've done enough. And in that respect, I think they want to push harder to show that They have to be considered even more than their...
Bob, you know, when you say things like nuts...
Wing nuts.
Yeah, but Bob...
Square octagon nut, that's pretty solid.
You're talking about a majority of Republicans in the polls.
No, I don't think so by any means.
Oh, sure you are, because who are the leaders? Trump, Carson, and Fiorino. They're not going for the old guys like you.
Yeah, I know. Well, but we have to live with that, Kevin.
Yeah, but I mean, Bob, doesn't that tell you something?
No.
The rank and file Republican voters in this country are not happy with the likes. Actually, I don't think John Boehner was that bad. It was the other guy in the Senate who was such... And nothing's happened to him, and never will.
Oh, I think they can complain all they want. I don't think McConnell's gone anywhere in the...
No, the Chamber of Commerce has got him in their pocket, and he's probably got the Chamber in his pocket.
Kevin, I do want to go back to your point that we got a majority of wingnuts in the Republican Party. I don't think these polls... I do agree that it shows a lot of unhappiness in the country, and I think Boehner stepping down is another indication of that widespread unhappiness. I think Boehner senses that as well. And, of course, the polls for Trump and Carson and Fiorina reflect that, too. So that I don't have any problem with. But to say that these people are way off on the conservative margins that are supporting these people, I think you've got a lot of moderates and conservative, I would say maybe off to the right of the center, who are really unhappy. And they do, when you throw them in with the more liberal Republicans, do constitute a very good chunk of the Republican Party. The other thing is, I think you got to check how these polls are being put together. And if they're simply calling people and asking them if they're Republicans and then taking what they have to say, you don't know who's answering the phone, whether they're going to vote, whether they ever have voted. Now, you can put together polls that are a lot more stringent in that respect, and those I think you have to...
Well, which ones would they be, Bob?
Well, I think those are the candidates' polls, to tell you the truth. I think the candidates have pollsters who have a pretty good idea where they stand. And those polls aren't released to the public because, again... by law, I believe, if they do that, they have to give out all the information on how the poll was conducted, etc. So, but I think if you were to talk, for example, talk to the people in the Hillary camp, I would guess what they're reading in the polls is a heck of a lot worse than what you're seeing from some of these public polls.
Our guest, Dr. Robert Heinemann, we're going to take a little break, come back and ask him what, if anything, is he going to do about the Russians in Syria? Our guest today, as he is every Friday on the Newsmaker show, and as you've noticed, Brian O'Neill is doing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday most weeks, and I'm doing Thursday and Friday. My two favorite guests, Chris Koff, very bright fellow in Colorado, and Bob Heinemann.
Run-of-the-mill fellow, yes.
Yeah, well, kind of, just a devout Republican.
Sure.
So let me ask you, before we get into the Russian situation.
I see.
If Trump does get the nomination, are you just going to stay home or vote third party? You're not going to vote for Trump, you've told me.
I never said that, but I'm not going to vote for Trump. Yeah.
Well, how did I know it if you didn't say it?
Well, you're a very clever man, Kevin, you know, that's why you hung in here in the media so long.
That's why I've rocked the nation, Bob.
Right.
All right, now, okay, let's go to the Russians.
Oh, I see, yeah.
By the way, I learned something yesterday that I already knew, but it was reinforced. Fox News comes on with this big bulletin alert, whatever they call it, Russians flying in Syria, warn Americans to get out of the skies. Now, the other two networks, the other three networks, which I don't much care for either, but they didn't play it up very big. And it turns out maybe it's not that big. Are you concerned about it? And if so, why?
Well, I think what we're dealing with here is the fact that the administration is known for a long time Putin, as we know, has visited Iran. He's visited a number of other countries, and as a result, I think he's put together a pretty effective, pretty strong coalition between the Iranians, Hezbollah, and the Syrian army and the Russians. So I think you're going to see a lot of troops compiling into Syria here in the next month or so. And I think Obama's view is basically better them than us.
What is your view?
Better them than us.
A lot of people feel that way.
Oh, yeah. I don't have any problem with let them get charging in there. I mean, you look at the past, the Russians charged into Afghanistan and wished many, many times they had not. Let them go flying into Syria, and they may be quite helpful in terms of ISIS and some of these other. One of the real problems I think we have here, Kevin, is we all know who Assad is, and I guess we're not supporting Assad. Nobody has any idea whom we're supporting. Who are these people? Are there any names? I mean, do they have an army? Where are they? You don't see nothing on the media about whom we're supporting. It makes it kind of hard to get in there and suggest that there are American forces here somehow deserve to be supported.
Why are they so upset that the Russians are in there? I think there's a lot of argument to be made in favor of, hey, if we're going to get slaughtered, let them do it first, right?
I think it's the Israelis and probably the Saudis that are very unhappy about this, because and as you know, Putin has met with Netanyahu within the last couple of weeks, and I think probably he told Netanyahu, this is what we're going to do, and you stay the heck out of it. And I don't think that made Netanyahu at all happy, especially if it is true that within the last year or so, 3 times he was preparing to bomb Iran. I think Putin has probably told him, you better not do that. And so Israel is going to see on its borders Hezbollah, the Syrians, the Russians, and the Iranians. Plus, I guess the Chechens are eager to get in there and start throwing their weight around, too. Now, I don't know whether Putin can keep these guys under control, but if they start working together and the Israelis are sitting there by themselves, obviously Netanyahu is going to get very nervous.
True or false, Putin is a much more effective leader than Barack Hussein Obama?
Well, I have no idea on that. I think in the area of foreign policy, I'm not certain what Obama's foreign policy is. It seems to be primarily to get American troops out of any place where there's conflict and keep them out. And I guess, that is a form of foreign policy, and I don't know quite what I think about that. Putin, on the other hand, has shown that he has the ability to take advantage of a lot of these situations created by our kind of vacuum. And so he can look pretty good. And in fact, on a number of occasions, I think he's actually stepped in and helped us out. So I don't want to be too hasty here in making a judgment. But obviously he is a pretty effective politician, that's for sure.
He's also a charmer. I saw him on the Charlie Rose interview. Oh, he is very effective as a politician. He manages to smile at the right time. He manages to be friendly. He manages to be tough when it's important to be tough. I think he's a very effective guy. But the talking heads on television are saying the Russians are not that strong financially to take on the kind of things that we've taken on.
Right. I think that's true, and I think that's why he's talking to Iran and Hezbollah. He's got to have some other troops there somewhere, I think. They're not all that strong financially, and frankly, I don't think their army is all that effective. Now, it is true they have some pretty powerful weapons, and they are in the position to call up troops pretty much whenever they want. But I think the Army has some pretty serious problems across the board.
Well, then let them go. Let them go. That's what Trump said, by the way. You don't like Trump, but he said let them go. Why should we care?
Right.
If they want to get knocked off and knock off in return, let them do it. Get our guys out of it.
Yeah. Well, I think Obama would agree with him on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the larger points here is that in terms of oil and energy, we don't have to depend on the Middle East to anywhere near the extent we did in the past. So maintaining stability in the Middle East, from our perspective, both in Iran, which was the British Petroleum Company, and in Saudi Arabia and places like that, the Emirates, we don't have to depend on their stability and oil supply as we did in the past. And so in terms of pulling out, it doesn't make us that much difference. And I guess we're looking at fundamental changes there in that situation, which does, again, I think, leave Israel hanging out quite a ways.
All right. Now, Bob, our time is about gone.
Oh, I see.
What other important things did you want to talk about that I haven't opened the door for you?
Well,
For which I have not opened the door.
I see, yeah. Well, I think the House of Representatives and the Syrian thing are really quite important. I do think in terms of what Congress has to do yet, we have the debt ceiling limit coming up early in December, and we have a number of other very important pieces of legislation that really have to be passed. And I don't know how that's going to happen there with the House kind of fumbling around the way it is. So that's something I think people should watch. And I guess the only other thing I think that is of some interest is that state Senate race in Binghamton, where Mr. Ashkar, the Republican, is running to replace Mr. Libas, who, of course, stepped down. And right now he's holding a 28% lead over the Democrat, the woman. And I think that, first of all, is going to pretty much cement the Republican majority in the state Senate for a little while. But it also shows that Senator Young, when she gets in there and helps campaign, is awfully, awfully effective.
Bob, time is gone. As always, you've managed to confuse people, but
I try,
and to evade the big issues. I'd be very glad to tell you what's really going on and what's going to happen. But as I said, the time is gone.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it is. You know what? All right, Bob Heineman, our guest on the Newsmaker show. Now we have information flowing all day long on WLEA. So keep your dial right there at